Hey guys, today I want to talk to you about hardship grants. These are programs that you don't have to pay back, but they can help you pay your bills or get essentials when you're going through a hard time financially. There are a ton of different hardship grant programs out there, but they can be a little bit hard to find. In a lot of cases, they may be tied to a past professional background or a current medical diagnosis, or maybe just the sort of hardship that you're experiencing at this time. We have a lot of programs we want to go over with you today. As we dive in, though, I want you to know that this list is not exhaustive. We're not going to cover every single program out there today because there's just so many. This video would end up being like 12 hours long, and I didn't want you to have to sit through that. So, we are going to go over a lot of them today, and we are going to show you where you can go to find even more. But we're also not going to be talking about other types of assistance like SNAP, which technically could be considered a hardship grant because they do give you monthly money for food every month. But for our purposes today, we're going to try to stay within that scope of what would probably more traditionally be considered a hardship grant. Now, as we dive in here, there's one more thing that I want to point out to you because I think this is really important. And I think it's something that a lot of people miss. So, if your hardship that you're experiencing right now is the result of a personal injury, an accident, or maybe some sort of corporate negligence, you may be able to get financial compensation through a legal claim. Now, in this particular moment, we are not talking about grants. We're talking about a free legal case review from our sponsor, and they can help you get compensation if you've had a car accident, if you've had exposure to certain chemicals, if you're dealing with social media addiction, video game addiction, product defects, and more. They have dozens of open cases right now. And if you're eligible for any one of them, you can take a quick 2-minute survey and see if you're eligible for that free case review. This can be absolutely life changing in some cases. So please go check out the link that you see on screen and see if you're eligible for any compensation through their services. Now, with that in mind, let's move on and talk about those hardship grant programs that I promised you. So, we're going to start with some general ones. If you have a pet, especially if that pet is a service animal, you may be able to get a grant to help provide care for that animal. There are many organizations that offer low income pet owners urgent or essential vet care grants. Some of these can range from a few $100s to thousands of dollars in some cases. Now, the big thing here, though, is that your pet generally has to have what's considered a good prognosis of recovery in order to qualify. And that means that a vet is pretty sure that your pet's going to be able to move on and have a good and healthy life after this treatment as long as they're able to get it. Now, if you're interested in this, there are over 24 veterinary grant programs listed on our website at the link that you see on screen. Same thing here with the home repair grants. We have found dozens upon dozens of these, and I didn't want to list them all out in this video format because I feel like that would take a really long time. However, there are a lot of programs out there that help low income homeowners, especially seniors and veterans with essential home repairs. Grants can be up to $7,500 or more through some of these. In some specific cities, I've seen grants of up to $50,000 or more, and these can be used to help repair your roof. I know that's something we get asked about a lot on this channel is roof repair, but it can also be used for fixing safety concerns, adding insulation and making your home more energy efficient, or making disability modifications like remodeling a bathroom or adding a ramp or a stair lift, things like that. There's all sorts of things that these grants can do, and it does vary depending on where you live and what your needs are, and so on and so forth. But you can get all of those details on our website at the link that you see on screen. Now, here is another program that I love to talk about every time we bring up grants, and this is Gradient Gives Back. They can pay up to 12 months of your mortgage or rent payments for families who are facing unexpected hardships through no fault of their own. 12 months of housing is a huge, huge blessing. And they don't have any strict income limits or anything like that. It sounds like they make their decisions more based on your individual circumstances and the answers to the questions in your application. But you can apply for that at the link that you see on screen there as well. Now, this one is a little unconventional, but I absolutely love this. This is one of my favorite lists that we've ever put together for you guys. I know that most of you have probably heard about Make a Wish, but there are actually wish granting programs that offer wishes and dream experiences to obviously children, but also seniors, veterans, adults with disabilities, and so on. Sometimes these are going to include those big, grandiose, like vacations and big things, but sometimes they also include things like electronics or special experiences or help with everyday essentials like mobility scooters or ramps or other things that you might need as a result of a hardship that you're experiencing. For example, Twilight Wish is an organization that provides low income seniors who are at least 65 years old with basic needs like wheelchairs, adjustable armchairs, tablets, things like that. They also have what they call celebration of life wishes, where they can help pay for you to take a trip back to your hometown or do something like that. And of course, they do also offer those bucket list adventures in some cases as well. Now, we have an article that explains Twilight Wish, as well as other wish granting organizations that serve seniors, veterans, adult with disabilities, and so on our website. And if you're interested in that kind of a resource, I strongly recommend that you go check that out because there's some truly amazing things that those organizations are able to do. I hope nobody needs this particular one. But if the hardship that you're experiencing is the result of a death of a loved one, you may be able to get help with funeral, burial, or cremation costs as well. I know how expensive that can be. We recently went through this experience with my little brother when he passed away, and I was astonished at how expensive that process can be. So, I want you to know as we go throughout these later slides that are coming up, a lot of the organizations I'm going to tell you about also offer help with final expenses if that's something that you need. If you did lose a child, you may be able to get additional support from organizations like Children's Burial Assistance, Final Farewell, the Tears Foundation, and so on. And of course, there are other organizations as well that may be able to assist you. We also have a list on our website where we aggregate that information, and I would encourage you to check that out as well. Now we're going to move on and we're going to talk about hardship grants for specific medical problems or diagnoses. We do have other lists coming up here in a minute. So if this doesn't apply to you, please just stay tuned with us. But first up, I want to talk to you about patient assistance programs because these are incredible. So these programs provide financial support for healthcare costs. They can help pay for medications, treatments, premiums, sometimes even transportation to and from your treatment. And the amounts that you can receive are going to vary depending on your diagnosis and what organization you're receiving that from. Most often, they're going to help cover copays or specific expenses. Some of them offer up to $20,000. I've seen some that offer, two, four, $10,000 a year. The amount just really varies, and it's usually based on the expected cost of your treatment. So, if you have a diagnosis, I would encourage that you go check out these databases that maintain these patient assistance funds. You can find them at the Patient Advocate Foundation, the PAN Foundation, Needy Meds, and those links are there on screen for you so that you can go check that out. There are many organizations that are dedicated to helping people with certain conditions. For example, the MS Society, the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, and so on. So, if you've been diagnosed with a serious illness, you should look for a national organization or society that focuses on that condition because these groups often have emergency funds that can help with travel, copays, urgent needs, and sometimes even non medical costs like rent or housing, utilities, and so on. For example, the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society offers up to $500 a year for urgent needs grants for patients who have either of those conditions. So if you aren't already aware of if there's an organization or a foundation that helps with this, you can do a simple Google search with your diagnosis and then the word foundation or society, something like that that will help bring up those organizations for you. And then once you find them, just search their website and look for something that says maybe hardship grants or emergency assistance, something like that. Now, if your hardship is medical, there are other things you can do to get help as well. For example, if you're low income, you can apply for Medicaid right away. Coverage is often retroactive. It used to be retroactive 90 days. They're in the process of dropping that down to 30 days. But that retroactive coverage may be able to help with some of those expenses as well. And of course, if you are dealing with a huge medical bill from, say, a hospital or an emergency room, you need to know that nonprofit hospitals are generally required to offer some sort of financial assistance or charity care. This is something that I think most people don't know about. And so I talk about it a lot because I know how life wrecking those medical bills can be. All you need to do is call the hospital's billing department and say that you think that you're eligible for financial assistance or charity care and ask for those details. The income limits are often quite high. I've seen them up to 400% of the federal poverty level, which is 4 times the federal poverty level, which is pretty generous. So a lot of people qualify for these. So definitely go check that out. And then, of course, if you're eligible for Medicare, especially if you're dual eligible for both Medicare and Medicaid, I always recommend that you reach out to our sponsor chapter at the number that you see on screen. They have licensed experts who will talk to you one-on-one, figure out, what medications you need, what treatments you need covered, what doctors you want to see, and help you find the very best plan in your area that will cover your needs and help you make the most out of those benefits. They're fantastic people. I know, like on reviews.io, they have like 3,000 reviews with like a 5-star average. So highly recommend that you give them a call if you are on Medicare, especially if you're dual eligible. Now, in addition to that, there are other specific grant programs for people who are dealing with certain circumstances, right? So if, for example, you have a brain tumor, the American Brain Tumor Association has information on more than 42 separate assistance programs for people who are living with brain tumors. The Gren Garcelon Fund provides help with mortgage, medications, utilities, and more if you have either a benign or a malignant tumor. Mission for Marine helps with medical bills, childcare, house payments, utility bills, transportation, and more if you have brain cancer. And of course, I have the link there on screen for you if you would like to take a look at those other 40 something funds that they have available. For these specific slides where we're talking about brain tumor grants, breast cancer grants, things like that, I have all sorts of resources on this. And if you'd like me to make a more tailored video for these conditions, just let me know in the comments and I'll work on getting that put together for you. I didn't want to spend a lot of time on it here today because we have a lot of different types of grants to cover, but I could easily make a video dedicated to any one of these topics. Just let me know if you'd like me to dive a little deeper for you. So when it comes to breast cancer grants, the Pink Fund provides up to $3,000 over a 3-month period to help with housing, utility bills, car payments, car insurance, health insurance, and more. You must be in active treatment and have a household income that is 300% or less of the federal poverty level to be able to get that. Other conditions may also apply, but you can apply for that at pinkfund.org. And then, of course, Living Beyond Breast Cancer provides a one-time grant of up to $1,250 for people in active treatment who have an income of 400% of the federal poverty level or less. They also have some other conditions as well, but you can visit their website at lbbc.org for more information if you're interested in that. Now, if you have other types of cancer, there, like I said, tons and tons of organizations and resources that offer hardship grants for people who are dealing with different types of cancers. And I'd be happy to make a video on any of these things. But Live Like Bella offers up to $200 to families with a child fighting pediatric cancer. If you live in the state of Florida, that limit is up to $3,000. The Surviving and Moving Forward Fund, also known as the SAM Fund, gives grants of up to $2,500 to young adult cancer survivors, and you can apply for that from the Expect Miracles Foundation. Now, there are, like I said before, other types of ways that you can qualify for hardship grants. Some of them are medical based, some of them are profession based, and some of them are determined differently than that. So now let's dive in and talk about some hardship grant programs for people who work in specific fields. Because a lot of times these resources are some of the best that we found. So the Grocery Worker Appreciation Grant is available. This is a service of the United Way. In order to be eligible for this, you must work in a grocery store or a store with a grocery department. However, if you are dashing, if you're running Instacart, DoorDash, Uber Eats, things like that, that does not qualify at this time. But in addition to working in that grocery store or store with a grocery department, you also need to have a surprise or urgent need, like maybe a car repair or a healthcare expense, or you got sick and you missed work, something that's out of the ordinary that has created a financial need for you. If you are selected, you can receive a cash card worth up to $250, and you can see the link to apply there on screen. I believe they take applications monthly. Now, Children of Restaurant Employees is another great organization that offers this kind of support. In order to be eligible for this, you must be currently working in the food and beverage industry. This can include things like working in a like hotel food service or a hospital cafeteria or like a food truck. Those all count as food and beverage industry type jobs as well. You have to have worked there at least 90 days. You must have a legally dependent child in your home, and you must have experienced a qualifying life circumstance in the last 90 days prior to your application. Now, those qualifying circumstances can include things like a medical diagnosis, an injury, death of a family member, natural disaster, domestic violence, things like that that are very extenuating circumstances. And if that applies to you, you can apply at coregives.org. Just remember that this organization only offers one grant per household in the lifetime. So this is a one and done deal. And of course, Modest Needs is another organization that helps individuals and families who are working. They specialize in helping people who earn just above the poverty level, who are typically not eligible for most kinds of conventional social assistance. So they give special consideration to single people with no children, veterans who have been recently discharged, teachers, first responders, that sort of thing. The average grant from Modest Needs ranges from $750 to $1,250, and you can apply at modestneeds.org if you're interested. Now, if you've worked in the entertainment industry, you may be eligible for help from the entertainment community funds. And there are like 12 different funds that are managed by this organization. The main one requires you to have documented professional earnings in theater, film, TV, music, radio, or dance within the last 6 years. And then you have to meet those earnings limits as well in order to qualify for this. If you do, you can apply at the link that you see on screen. And military and veterans, of course, there's tons of organizations that offer hardship assistance to military and veterans too. So each military branch has its own emergency relief program, such as Army Emergency Relief, that can provide zero interest loans or grants to those who need a little extra support. The American Legion's TFA grants can provide up to $1,500 to current American Legion members or children of eligible active duty service members. And the VFW Unmet Needs Grant can provide up to $2,500 grants to veterans, service members, and their families when they have unmet needs. And of course, if you work in a union job, you may be able to get additional support from your union as well. You would want to check with your union representatives or your benefits coordinator right away. Many unions offer hardship grants, relief funds, emergency assistance, and so on. These may be able to help cover job losses, medical emergencies, natural disasters, strikes, all sorts of different circumstances. And a lot of times they're going to be coordinated by an affiliated nonprofit or a trust fund or a credit union. For example, AFL-CIO members may qualify for a Union Plus disaster relief grant of up to $500 if they experience a qualifying disaster. But of course, the catch to that is you have to be an AFL-CIO member and you have to have a Union Plus account in order to be able to get that relief. Now, if you work as a semi-truck driver, you may be able to get help from the St. Christopher Truckers Relief Fund as well. You can see all the requirements for that on screen. If you're eligible, they do help pay for mortgage and rent, insurance, utilities, car payments, those sorts of emergency things, and that fund is available at truckersfund.org. Farmers are also often eligible for hardship assistance as well. These can come from all sorts of different programs. I think most people who work in farming are familiar with what the USDA and the state agriculture departments can do for you, but there are also nonprofits like the CCOF Foundation that can provide direct financial aid if you experience a disaster in a certain state or if maybe you follow a certain farming practice. There are lots of grants for that as well. And if you'd like me to put together a list on that, just let me know. And if you're in college, many colleges offer emergency grants for students who need help with their housing, food, medical crises, that sort of thing. You'll want to check with your school's financial aid office, the student services, or the campus food pantry if they have one, because they should be able to help you coordinate and figure out what kind of resources are available to you. And of course, if you want to just search for it on your own, we've got some suggested searches for you there on screen as well that you can try. Now, there are other grants and programs available that may be able to assist you as well. And we're just going to do a quick overview of some of these because I know I've talked about them, or at least most of them, in other videos. So, if you're interested in starting a business, Skip Grants is a great resource. They have grants that range from $500 to $25,000, sometimes more. This is not low income specific, this is business grant type stuff. I like to use Skip because they have helpful built-in AI tools that can automatically apply for you. They make the process really smooth and easy. If you're interested, they are a sponsor of this channel, and you can check them out at the link that you see on screen. Now, in addition to that, Reddit groups can be a great way to get extra assistance as well. There are certain subreddits that are dedicated to helping low income people connect with additional resources. So, assistance, Santa's Little Helpers, these are great places to turn for that extra support. Typically, you have to have an existing Reddit account with a certain amount of karma points, and help is usually capped at about $150 or less when you receive help through Reddit. Now, in addition to that, we have other resources like NetWish. NetWish is really interesting. This website is allegedly run by a successful Philadelphia businessman who wants to remain completely anonymous. Nobody knows who he is, but people have reported that this works. So you go to netwish.org, you submit your wish. You generally have a better chance of being selected if you're very specific about what you need. There's not really a lot of paperwork involved. They never ask for any bank details or anything. If you're selected, you just receive that through the traditional postal mail. And there is a max value on your NetWish of $200. So make sure that you don't ask for more than that. If none of these resources are working for you, there are, of course, a lot of charities and organizations who can step in with what I would consider micro grants because they're typically under $500. Salvation Army can often provide small amounts, usually between $50 and $200, toward emergency expenses like rent and utilities. Catholic Charities often offers emergency aid for rent, utilities, food, and other social services. St. Vincent de Paul is another great resource. They offer direct personalized assistance with food, rent, utilities, sometimes car repairs, and other basic necessities as well. Help through St. Vincent de Paul is usually capped at about $300 per household, though. And then, of course, many states require local governments to provide emergency financial assistance for low-income people. And these funds can help with rent, utilities, medications, funeral costs, clothing, anything that you can't cover on your own that is quite urgent. You can ask your town, city, or county government if that's available in your area. Typically, you're going to want to ask about township assistance, indigent assistance, low income assistance funds, that sort of thing, and they should be able to point you in the right direction of who you need to talk to for that relief. Some areas, like I know a lot of counties in Washington state, have veterans funds as well at the county level, and you can call and you can ask about those as well. And if you're a veteran, they may be able to offer you additional support. Now, like I said at the beginning, this is not a fully comprehensive video. There are tons of other resources out there that can help you, like TANF, WIC, SNAP, all those government programs that we talk about in our other videos. So make sure that you subscribe to our channel and go check those out for more ways to save money and get free stuff. I'll see you again.